Hello everyone, in this guide we're going to be going over weapon and armor parameters and how to set them up in mod registry. This is going to be a relatively simple guide, and a lot of this is not really all that complicated, but I think I can add some useful information in this guide that you might not otherwise know already. So, let's go into our mod registry here. We're going to get event init mod. So this is going to trigger our blueprint script whenever the mod is loaded. I'm going to be assuming you already saw the Blueprint Basics programming guide that I made, but you don't necessarily need to see it. This isn't very complicated and you can follow the same steps that I'm doing here. So by right-clicking and going to the Modkit, we can see all the possible nodes that we can place here. And if we go into weapons and small arms, these are all the nodes we can use to edit weapons. But I think first let's start with the most simple thing, weapon damage and armor penetration. So I'm going to grab static data set damage, connect it to the event init mod, and I think, let's see, which gun would be good to edit? Let's just do the standard AKM. Just to keep things simple, let's have it do 50 damage, which is a lot, but for this guide it'll make things easier to understand. Now there is another damage node. Let's get damage reduced. So this is the damage that it's going to do after the weapon starts to lose some durability. Typically it's going to do less damage, but if you don't want that to happen, you can just set it to the same value. Always make sure to fill in this class here. If you leave this empty and you try to play an editor or load the mod, your editor and server will crash, so make sure you have everything filled out correctly. Next, let's do armor penetration. So let's drag off this node and get piercing. Set armor piercing. Armor penetration is calculated through percentages, which you need to translate to a number value. So let's say we want it to have 50 pen, we're going to type in 0.5. Because of how damage calculation works, you're going to have all your percentages as decimal values. So with 50 damage and 50 armor piercing, we can calculate how much damage this would do against different armor sets. So let's say we want to find out how much damage this would deal against the vanilla heavy assault vest, which protects against 80% of damage. First we would take the armor piercing value, which is 0.5, multiply that by the armor protection value. So we got 0.4. Then we're going to subtract that 0.4 from the armor protection percent, which again is just going to be 0.4. Next we're going to multiply that by the base damage, and then it'll tell us how much damage will be reduced. So this is going to take 20 damage out of the 50. Meaning that this weapon with this setup would deal 30 damage against someone wearing a heavy assault vest, which is pretty good. So I've loaded up the game now playing in the editor with two different clients so that you can see the damage being dealt. So shooting it one time in the chest, puts you down to 70 HP, dealing 30 damage. Let's say you want to make the AK shoot a little bit faster. We can do that as well by using the attack rate node. I'm going to place that down, set it to AKM. And here you can set the attack rate, which is going to be measured in rounds per minute. Default, the AK shoots at 600 rounds per minute, so let's maybe crank that up to a good 800. Now, whenever you do start putting the attack rate really high, you will start to get issues with recoil and camera shake kind of bugging out, so be careful with it, but there's still some fun stuff you can do. We can also change the maximum amount of ammo by typing in ammo here, and we're looking for set max ammo. Pretty simple. Set it to the weapon that you want to edit, and the value, let's say we want it to have 100 rounds. We can also adjust the ballistics of the weapon as well. So let's start with drag. We're going to get data set drag. And drag is a percentage value applied to the bullet as it flies. You can think of it like it's a ballistic coefficient. Realistically, drag is just a percentage that reduces the velocity over time, right? Because gravity is always a set constant. Now most weapons in Deadside do have drag set to around 20 to maybe 40% depending on the weapon. I'm going to make it really low at 0.1. Let's also set the velocity. Type in start velocity, static data, start velocity. Now normally I think the AKM is, the velocity is set to around 600 something. I believe it's meters per second. I'm going to make it, I don't know, pretty fast. At around 1,000. So this thing is going to basically be shooting like an M99. That's how fast this bullet is going to travel. You can also set the damage that it does to vehicles with set vehicle damage. I think just for fun, let's make this basically one-shot vehicles at like 10,000 damage. That's 100,000 damage, sure, whatever. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that weapon accuracy, we do have nodes for it here with set spread angle, which is the angle, essentially bloom. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like these nodes are working, so currently weapon accuracy can't really be adjusted, but this will be fixed at some point, I'm sure. We also have set iron sight switch speed, which is basically just the ADS speed of the weapon. Now, the default for the AK here is just 1. Let's say we want to make it 50% faster, so 1.5. Now next, let's talk about weapon recoil, because you can't really change the weapon recoil values themselves, but you can change the way that those values are applied to the camera moving, which is what recoil is. And that's going to be done through the recoil graph. I'll show you what I mean. And we're going to grab static dataset recoil curve. And now we're going to make our own recoil curve. So let's go back here. We're going to look in the AKM, search recoil, and here's the default recoil curve. So let's just browse to that asset, copy it, go back to our mod folder, go ahead and paste it in, rename it. So I renamed it example weapon assault rifle recoil, and I'm going to open it up. And here you can see the recoil graph. So this graph describes the way in which recoil is applied to the camera over time. The x-axis is time and y is the recoil applied. So let's say we wanted to make this have a lot less recoil overall. We can hit this node here. And let's say, let's put this down to 0.2. And clicking this node, let's make this hump here a lot lower. And maybe we want the recoil to apply slightly faster as well. So let's do 0.18. Go to the last node here, maybe do 0.26. Let's go ahead and save that. Go back to our mod registry. And now we can select our curve. So example weapon assault rifle recoil, compile, and save. So let's see what all this stuff looks like in game. So we've obviously changed a lot about our AK. The fire rate is now 800. It has 100 rounds in the magazine. And we've also changed the recoil curve. So let's see what this looks like when you fire it. Look how much faster those bullets travel. And it also has much less recoil because we lowered that curve by a lot. We're applying less of the recoil pattern to the camera. So it's very easy just to hold this thing down and spray. But let's say you want to actually raise the recoil instead of lowering it, and we can do that as well. Let's make the recoil apply over a longer period of time and also apply more than it normally would. So let's put this down to 0.24. Move that down there, and then this last node, we're going to put it 0.4. So this is going to apply over 0.4 seconds, which is really quite slow, but I'm trying to make an extreme example here. On this node, let's drag this way up here. And we're also going to raise both of these nodes. Let's put that at 0.4. Now you'll notice these two nodes are at the same level. But if we raise this last node to say maybe 0.3, it's not going to bring the recoil back down all the way. That's the best way I can explain it simply. So let's raise this other one a little bit more. And then make this curve nice and tall. So this is gonna look pretty crazy. Your weapon's gonna go up and down really fast, and it's also not gonna come down as far as it normally would. So let's see what this crazy looking graph looks like in game. I forgot to mention it last time we played in the editor, but the ADS speed is a lot faster, obviously. And now let's see what that crazy recoil looks like. Much harder to control. If we take single shots, it climbs a lot after each shot. Now I think that's all I have to cover when it comes to weapon setup. The rest of the nodes are pretty self-explanatory, and you can see them all if you just search small arms. Scroll down here, and these are all the parameters that you can set. For example, no headshots allow you to change if it deals headshot damage. Misfire chance is your jam percentage chance whenever the durability gets low. So next let's move on to armor parameters. Now just for fun, let's make the Moto helmet the best helmet in the game. Why not? So we're going to drag off this node and just search armor. And we're going to use static dataset armor. Now armor has different armor protection values based on its condition, right? And we can change the armor protection for each of those conditions. But let's just start with good, and let's make this value, oh, I don't know, 0.9, which is going to be 90% protection. Now let's copy this again, drag it over, connect it. Let's do average now. Also just have it at 0.9. Let's just not have it degrade at all because we're making an extremely overpowered helmet here. Okay, with these 5 nodes, it will always protect you from 90% of damage, even when it's broken. Now another node that I really like is the protects head node. Let's grab that one. So as this is set up right now, the moto helmet is not going to protect you from headshots since this is unchecked, but since we're making an extremely overpowered helmet, it's going to protect you from headshots. So let's go ahead and check that. Now if you search in your nodes, wearable, these are really all the nodes you can use to edit armor and equipment, and there really isn't a ton. You can set custom skins and stuff, but I'm not going to cover that in this guide. So let's go ahead and compile and save and play around with this in game. So let's grab this moto helmet, and now it protects against 90% of headshot damage, which is really broken. Now with everything we've covered so far, you can really change how weapons perform in Deadside, especially if you watch our trader setup guide too. You can change how rep and pricing is done, you can change where the loot spawns with this guide, and now you can change the weapon parameters themselves. So you can do some cool stuff like making the N4 shoot a lot faster, or making the UMP deal 50 damage and shoot a lot slower. I've been working on some mods on my own in my free time. It's been fun. So, I hope this guide is helpful. Thanks for watching.